Well, we're pretty much winding up toward Halloween now. We got like, I guess, a week and a couple of days to go. I think Halloween falls on a Tuesday. So we will continue the Monster Mash. And now, here's a 1953 film that literally scared the shit out of every fucking kid my age back in the day when it ran on TV. And of course, the whole thing was, we all had black and white TVs back then, so anything we saw we assumed was in black and white. But this film was actually in color. And the name of the film is Invaders from Mars. Now, this was sort of like the whole 50s, commie fucking scare control type of thing like that. So it opens up where this kid is looking out the window with his telescope and joined by his father, who's a scientist, and they go back to bed. Then the kid's waken up by some weird noise and he sees a flying saucer land in the field beyond his house. So he wakes his father up and tells him this stuff. Of course, Dad is hesitant to believe it, but something bugs him and he walks out and doesn't come back. The father is played by Leif Erikson. The wife is played by Hilary Brooke, who was also in the Abbott Costello TV show. So she's all kinds of nervous and upset and calls the cops, who go out there and look for Dad, but don't come back. Then all of a sudden, Dad shows up, a little bit disheveled, a little bit grouchy, and wants his coffee, and sort of backhands his kid out of the way when he doesn't move as fast as he wants him to. Then the two cops show up, and they're acting weird too. And the kid notices that there's something stuck in the back of his dad's head. That's where he gets the backhand. So the cops go, they have work to do, and the scientist agrees and walks out. Well, little Jimmy's looking through the telescope and sees his neighbor, little girl Kathy, disappear. And he goes over and tells Kathy's mother what's going on, but Kathy shows up with this blank look on her face, and the kid's yelled at for causing the thing, but then all of a sudden the house is on fire. And Kathy just stands there with a blank look on her face. So it winds up that the dad takes Mom out for a little walk by the sand pit, and she disappears. And he goes to see the cops, but it seems that the chief of police has also been taken out there, and he's got a thing. So the whole thing is, people are disappearing in the sand pit, and these things are being implanted in the back of their heads, and they're going to destroy military installations. Well, finally the kid gets to the right people, and they keep him from going back with his parents, who basically are going to drop him in the sand pit too. This kept me and a lot of people away from fucking sand pits for a good many years. So they were introduced to Colonel Fielding and another scientist, and Colonel Fielding is played by Morris Ancrum, who was a fucking fixture in just about every horror and sci-fi movie or big monster movie in the 50s as a general, a cop, or something else. Usually he stands in the background, but here he's pretty active. And they're checking the whole thing out when his sergeant, who has been with him for 20 years, Sergeant Rinaldi, goes out there and he's sucked down into the whole thing. So the other thing is, too, that Kathy dies from a mysterious brain hemorrhage. Whatever these implant things are, they have a little bit of an explosive on them, so when the Martians are done with you, bang, they die. The two cops are caught trying to burn down an installation, and they keel over dead. The police chief and the general are trying to also blow something up, but they are shot at and their suitcase explodes, incinerating them. The parents are trying to assassinate the father of little Kathy because he's another scientist, and they get rounded up, and before anything happens, they get rushed to the hospital for surgery. Well, the kid and the female scientist get sucked under the ground, and there's these Martians walking around which look like these big goofy fuckers with bug eyes and oven mitt hands, and they carry their leader, who is this face. I don't know how they did this. He's in a fucking jar. He's got a huge head with a human face and reptilian little arms wiggling around. So there's some pitch battles with the monsters underground, and finally charges are set and the spaceship is blown to shit. And it winds up at the end of the film, it's nothing more than a bad dream. But then it wakes up where they see the spaceship landing again, and it starts all over again. like I said, this fucker scared the living shit out of everybody when we were kids because of this whole, mind control thing and taking over your parents and stuff like that. And, other people were in it. Arthur Franz as the scientist. Trying to think who else. Like I said, Morris Ancrum to address him. He, like I said, he played generals and authority figures as well as Indians and outlaws all through the 50s and 60s. He was born, I wrote this damn thing down here. He was born in 1897. He passed away at age 67. But his body of work is tremendous. Not only his movies, but his TV work and everything like that. He actually played a Mexican general in Veracruz, too. Like I said, in this one, he's Colonel Fielding, and he's pretty active, like machine gunning the Martians and throwing hand grenades at them and shit like that. And the thing is, they really can't be killed. They get riddled with fucking bullets, but then the brain thing, their head thing, makes them come back and keep fighting. So, really, really an interesting film, and I believe they cast Jimmy Hunt as a cop in the remake, the Tobe Hooper canon remake, which kind of sucked. But the concept of implanting those things in the back of people's heads was lifted by Roger Corman for 1956. It conquered the world with those things that were flying around after they came out from under the creature and zapped people in the back of the heads and implanted control things in them. So that's our little film, which really isn't in black and white, it's in color. But like I said, we grew up with this, black and white TVs. Very few of us could afford color TVs. Now, I said I'd buy this sucker, and I did. Jeanne Carmen, My Wild, Wild Life. Book is close to $40, and it's worth every fucking penny of it. Jeanne Carmen, My Wild, Wild Life as a pinup queen, trick shot golfer, and Hollywood actress. Well, you're not going to hear any stories about the Monster of Pedras Blancas, or pretty much hardly anything about her movie career. What is in this is basically her memoirs, transcribed by, I'm guessing, her son. I know it's her son because he wrote the book. Just trying to find a table of contents here. Okay, it's how she met Jimmy Roselli, Errol Flynn, Clark Gable, Howard Hughes, Bob Hope, Lenny Bruce, Michael Rennie, Elvis, Joe DiMaggio, Jack Benny, Peter Lawford, Steve Corcoran, Jack Kennedy, Bobby Kennedy, and her lifelong friendship with Marilyn Monroe, that she met Marilyn by happenstance and they became very, very close friends. And unfortunately, Jeanne got sucked into the whole Kennedy-Marilyn situation where basically she knew that it was this foul play. She knew that Marilyn wasn't going to commit suicide. And she was told basically, get out of town or there'll be a problem. And she did leave town. She did relocate to Arizona, stayed there for a good many years when she was called up by none other than Johnny Roselli, who told her that she could come back to Hollywood because the guy who basically didn't want her around and would have her killed, Sam Giancana, was killed by Roselli himself. Roselli unfortunately wound up in a 55-gallon drum in pieces down the road for testifying or whatever. But like I said, this book is not film, it's not a movie book. It's a book about a woman who took no prisoners, and I say this with total respect, was one hell of a tough broad. And like I said, I had met her at a Chiller Theater. I wish I had spent more time, because this book is fascinating. She pulls back no punches. She was a glamour pinup, a trick shot golfer, and she liked the pinup job more than she liked the acting jobs that she got. But her interactions with all these people and these stories, I mean, this book is a fantastic read. And Jeanne was one hell of a woman who did things her way. Nobody pushed her into anything. She took no shit. She took no prisoners. And all I can say, it was an honor to meet her, and I've been in contact with her son, Brandon James, who wrote this book, and we're trying to dig up the picture of me that she asked me to take with her at Chiller because, like I said, I was shit-faced and never thought to ask for a copy to be sent to me. So definitely worth a look. There's a website, JeanneCarmen.com, I believe. You can get it there. You can find it on eBay. But believe me when I tell you, definitely worth the read. So that's our show for today. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for tuning in. Above all, stay safe. And we'll catch you later on with some more classic black and white films from the 50s.